Welcome to the first video in the Secrets to Drawing video series. In this video, we're going to explore the first element of art, line. But before we do that, let's take a look at a quote. "A man paints with his brains, not with his hands." This is a quote by the artist Michelangelo. Think about that for a minute. What do you think it means? What Michelangelo is saying to us is that drawing and painting is not necessarily just making marks. There's more to it than that. In fact, it's a cognitive experience that happens between your ears. It's an understanding that can only come from gathering information and putting that information to use. And this is how we're going to approach drawing. You see, drawing is a skill that can be learned and developed by anyone. And it all starts by understanding the elements of art. That's why we're going to start with the elements of art and explore each element just a little bit and its relationship to drawing. The first element of art we're going to explore is line. Then we'll move on to shape, form, then value, then we'll move on to space, then color, and then lastly texture. It's important to understand the elements of art, and it's a good idea to approach drawing like baking a cake. If you've ever baked a cake before, then you know you have a list of things that you put into the cake, and these things are called the ingredients. You see, the elements of art are like the ingredients. If we have good quality ingredients, we're going to have a great cake. Well, the same thing is true to drawing. If we understand the elements of art and treat them like the ingredients in our drawings, then our drawings are going to be successful. So let's start looking at the elements of art. And the first element of art that we're going to talk about is line. Now, what exactly is line? Well, in terms of art, line is a moving dot. You see, if you take a dot and you move it, you're creating a line. It's really that simple. Line is the most fundamental element of art. This is why we start with line. And a lot of people think that line is the only way to draw, but you'll see that's not necessarily the case. But let's take a look at line. So if I take a dot and I put it on the paper and I move it, I've created a line. Obviously, you can create a variety of different types of lines. I can put more pressure on my pencil and make a dark line, or less pressure and make a light line. Of course, I can make a wavy line. I can make a spiral line. I can make a line that looks like it's far away and it comes closer by putting more pressure on it. So I would encourage you here at the beginning just to create a variety of different lines. In fact, try holding your pencil a different way and see what happens to the lines that you make when you hold your pencil in a different way. We're going to be creating all kinds of marks when we're creating drawings. So it's important to understand the medium that you're using. Right now we're using graphite and we're using a pencil. So use the pencil to the maximum potential and try to make as many different marks as you possibly can with that pencil. Now let's talk about specific types of lines. The first type of lines are contour lines. Contour lines are outlines. They can indicate where one object ends and another begins. This is probably the most basic way that we think of line.
If I take a drawing of an apple here,
just using lines, the outlines that I create are the contour lines. They show us basically where the apple is, where the apple ends, and where the background or other objects begin. Again, these are called contour lines. Now, a lot of people mistakenly believe that whatever material you're using is the only thickness of line that you can create. That's not true. You see, line quality is the thickness or thinness of a line. It can be used to indicate shadow and create the illusion of form in a drawing just by using a line. So it's really important to use a variety of thickness or thinnesses of line in your drawings. Let's look at this apple, for example. I have a light source coming from the upper left-hand corner. I'm going back down this drawing and I'm enhancing the line quality. Wherever my apple gets thicker, I'm making the line just a bit thicker. wherever there might be shadow, whether it's
Optimism,
cast
Lord.
shadow
baby.
or core shadow on the
I see,
apple,
baby.
I'm making that line a little bit thicker. You can see where I'm making the line thicker. By doing this, I'm making the drawing more interesting, and I'm also
No.
creating the illusion of form and shadow only with line.
What? Are you trying
Now,
to
a
tell me
blind
you have been
contour line
abused?
drawing is an exercise.
Is that why you
And this
eat
is
the
an
poops?
exercise that I want you
Is
to
that why
do
you
and
eat the
practice with.
poops?
A blind contour line drawing is created with one continuous line without looking at your paper. In fact, you are looking at the object 100% of the time. It's a great exercise to help you get in the mode of observation. Here's an example.
Oh, look at
I
your
have a little salt
baby.
shaker here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this salt shaker, and I'm going to try to move my eye at the same speed that I'm using my pencil over the surface of the paper. I'm not going to look at the paper at all. I'm going to really resist looking at the paper and only look at the object. And again, I'm going to move my hand at the same speed that I'm moving my eye over the surface. By doing this, I'm looking at the object 100% of the time, and I'm learning to observe the object. You see, drawing is really about observation. If you understand how to look, then you'll understand how to draw. Remember that quote by Michelangelo. This is where we begin that cognitive process of drawing, understanding what we see and putting that information on our paper. That's really what drawing is about. Doing a blind contour line drawing like the one you see here will help us get into that mode. It'll help us learn to observe. Now, if you do it correctly, it'll look almost nothing like your object. In fact, it'll look like you did a drawing in an earthquake. But that's okay. Remember, it's an exercise. You see, drawing is at least 50% observation. In fact, in the blind contour line drawing, we spent 100% of our time looking at the object. Now, just imagine if we spent half of our time really observing the object and the other half of the time drawing. This is how you should approach drawing. So many people don't look at objects when they draw, and that's a mistake. Now I'm going to revisit the salt shaker, except this time I'm going to look at the object 50% of the time and make marks on my surface the other 50% of the time. Now what I mean by that is not just stare at the object for about 3 minutes and then take the next 3 minutes to try to remember everything that I've seen and make those marks on the surface. That would be crazy. Instead, I'm going to look at the object, gather information, small bits of information, and then put that information on my paper. In fact, all the answers that I need are on that object. All I have to do is look at the object, look at the relationships that happen on the object, and then make those marks on my surface. All the information is there for you. All you have to do is look for it and find it. Now that I've got my contour line drawing completed, I'm going to go back and I'm going to enhance the line quality. Remember, line quality is the thickness or thinness of the line. So I'm going to look at the object and decide where the object gets thicker and where it gets thinner. I may choose to make the line thicker where the object gets thicker. Another way that I'll evaluate where to add more thick lines and enhance my line quality is where there might be shadow, whether that's cast shadow or core shadow on the object. Wherever there is shadow on the object, I might make that line a little bit thicker to create that illusion of shadow.
Now, there are more types of lines besides contour lines. These are called
cross-contour lines. And cross-contour lines are lines that cross over the contours of the object. In fact, it's almost a theoretical line. Adding media in a drawing in the direction of the cross-contour lines can further create the illusion of form in a drawing. This is what I mean. Let's take 4 spheres, for example, and let's say they all have the same light source. In the first sphere, I'm going to create cross-contour lines to indicate shadow on the sphere. In fact, I'm going to make these lines go directly horizontal. They're not going to follow the cross contours of the object. Instead, they're just horizontal lines. We've created the illusion of shadow, but we haven't created the illusion of form. Instead, a sphere is a circular object. So the cross-contour lines that we create should have spherical qualities about it. They should be a little bit rounded. They follow the cross-contours of the object. A good way to think about this is if you picked up an object, like let's say an apple, and you started moving your finger around the apple. You'll feel areas where the apple extrudes and where the apple recedes. These lines that you're creating with your finger are called cross-contour lines. You can see here in the second sphere that I've created more of the illusion of form as well as the illusion of shadow by making these cross-contour lines follow the form of the sphere. Now, when we add media to a surface or a material to a surface when we're drawing, we need to consider these cross-contour lines. In fact, when we're doing straight shading, we need to make sure that we think about the form of the object. This is illustrated in the spheres below. In the first sphere, I'm just doing straight horizontal lines to add the shadow. It does an adequate job of creating the illusion of shadow in a light source, but it does little to indicate the illusion of form.
If, however, we follow the cross contours of the object when we add our value in shadowing, we can go further in creating the illusion of form.
Remember, drawing is the creation of an illusion. We're creating the illusion of a three-dimensional object on a two-dimensional surface. So we need to use everything in our power to create that illusion. Using cross-contour lines will go a long way in creating that illusion of form for you. Now in this example, I'm using graphite and a pencil.
But this is true in any other medium. In fact,
it works in painting as well. Cross-contour lines are very important in creating the illusion that you are desiring. Yet so many people don't even know about them. But you do now. So make sure that you use cross-contour lines when you're adding any type of value or any type of shadowing or media to your surface. So what exactly did we learn today?
Well, first we learned that line, in terms of art, is a moving dot.
Secondly, we learned that contour lines are outlines. They can indicate where one object ends and another object begins. We also learned that line quality is the thickness or thinness of a line.
It can be used to indicate shadow
and create the illusion of form in a drawing. We also learned that a blind contour line drawing is an exercise
and is created with one continuous line without looking at the paper.
In fact, you're looking at the object 100% of the time. Do this to get better at observation. We learned that drawing is at least 50% observation. So observation is very important in being able to draw well. And lastly, we learned that cross-contour lines are lines that cross over the contours of an object. When we add a medium in a drawing in the direction of the cross-contour lines, we can further create the illusion of form in a drawing. In the next video, we're going to take a look at shape, the next element of art, and we're going to learn how we can put shapes together to draw anything we desire.